Hello again, this is the 11th of April 2025 and this is the update on my Facebook diet and results of the experiment of taking the tablets off my kids. For those who missed the first one, I'll put a link in the description if anyone's interested. For those who missed the first one, a month ago, on the 11th of March, I decided to take my children's tablets away and I, in solidarity, gave up using Facebook. The reason I did this, I wouldn't say they were suffering from the dreaded brain rot particularly, but I'd started noticing some habits that I didn't want to encourage. I didn't want to allow to continue, let's say. My daughter, who's 3, she would often watch a video for 2 or 3 seconds and then she'd found how to look at the next one, so get the menu up from the bottom and then click on another video. And she'd watch that for a few seconds and then get another one. I thought she's not even engaging with these videos, she's just wasting time. She's just clicking on things and seeing what happens. And my son, he's 7, he would often watch a video. I mean, he liked watching things like people playing Minecraft and things, which, it's not particularly educational or anything, but, I let him do it. There's no harm in it. I used to watch a lot of mindless rubbish when I was a kid, and I turned out fine. So, anyway, I thought, it's all right. It's just relaxing, it's worse things he could be doing. But he'd watch a video and then he'd watch another one and he'd watch another one and he'd watch another one and he'd just keep watching the next suggested video over and over and over. Suggested video, next suggested video. And I'd look at his history list and there'd be maybe 20 or 30 videos of people playing Minecraft or people building Lego sets. And it was just one after the other. And I was thinking, is he even remembering what he's seen? Is he engaging with these videos? Again, what is he actually doing when he's watching YouTube? So I decided, well, first of all, I decided to give them 2 hours a day screen time. But then my son found he could, work around it. He'd spend his 2 hours watching his people playing Minecraft. And then he'd say to me, Mum, can I watch a David Attenborough DVD? Mum, can I watch some horrible histories? And he'd used up his 2 hours, but of course I can't say no to things that are actively educational. And then I'd start doing things like thinking, oh, well, they've had the 2 hours, but I'm busy cooking dinner, so I'll just, leave them to it for a bit longer and things. And, it obviously wasn't working. And it was difficult to keep track when they'd watch, half an hour for a bit and then my daughter would watch another 10 minutes and then my son would be out playing and then he'd come in and watch. Who's had what? What does it all add up to? And my husband wasn't really on board with it. And when I was out at work, he'd just let them have as much as they wanted. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm blaming my husband completely for this. I mean, he bought them the tablets. He bought one for my daughter when she was 2 and for our son when he was 3. Which, was against my advice. I thought that was way too young for them to be having their own tablets. What are they going to be doing at that age on the internet? But again, it's partly my fault for not doing anything sooner. And I think ultimately the problem is, my old arch nemesis capitalism. The overconsumption, overproduction, 24-hour, have whatever you want culture that we find ourselves in. These videos exist because people are making money off them. They're getting the views. They're getting the subscribers because people want to keep the kids quiet. When I say they're watching rubbish, what I mean is, they're watching, characters singing nursery rhymes, I explained my son, he just watches people playing Minecraft over and over again. My daughter was watching things that, things she already knew, characters counting to 10, characters saying their alphabet over and over. And she already knows how to do those things. She needs things the next level up. And they weren't quality entertainment. They weren't, well-made animations or anything like that. And, I was thinking, what is she actually spending her time doing? She'd be much better off just playing with her toys. If she's bored, if she's fed up, whatever, just let her entertain herself for a little while. Just read her a book, something like that. As I say, my husband wasn't on board with it at first. And he would often just give her his phone. The tablet was hidden away in the attic, but he would just give her his phone and let her watch whatever. But yeah, I was annoyed by that, obviously, but I have sort of sent him some articles about, the dangers of screen time and the problems that are appearing, that teachers are noticing, that, childcare providers are noticing, about children's behaviour, about their attention spans, about their ability to be creative, about their reading and writing ability and things. And a lot of them are coming out of America, where I suppose the screen time is a bigger problem. Maybe, I don't know. But as I was saying, there are some behaviours in my children that were starting to make me think, this habit that they have is sort of becoming unhealthy. As soon as they were bored, tired, upset, anything, first thing they'd do was reach for the tablet and, get some entertainment shoved in their eyeballs. And he has... I don't know if it's because, he just doesn't want an argument about it, or if, he actually thinks, yes, there is a problem here that we can solve. But he has stopped just automatically passing her the phone, and he does read to her a lot more, which I think is good. Yeah, the books have kind of become a substitute for the YouTube, and I think that's a positive. That's definitely a good thing, because it is interaction with her dad. It is seeing words, seeing pictures, that she can actually sit and engage with and concentrate on what's going on in the story. It happens at a reasonable pace for a 3-year-old brain. And my son has filled the void mostly by playing computer games, which, again, it's one of those things that there's a bit of a moral panic about computer games, but I personally think it's much better than just watching videos, because it is brain activity. All the time he's playing, he plays things like Minecraft, Fortnite, things where he's thinking, planning, exploring, problem solving. And it's something that he actually enjoys and he wants to talk about with me afterwards. And also a lot of his friends are into these games as well, so they sit and talk about the games together. They've got a sort of ready-made conversation starter. Oh, what have you done on Minecraft lately? But as I say, I wasn't worried that they were becoming complete, iPad zombies. They do still play outside. They interact with each other. They interact with me and their dad and their granny and everyone. They're learning to read and write at a fairly standard speed, But yeah, as I say, there were habits that I did not want to get any worse. And I think it's been a good thing all around. I think, I wouldn't say that their behaviour has changed. My daughter's had a bit of a development leap. She's suddenly become pretty much completely potty trained and her speech has improved a lot. I don't know if that is because of the lack of tablet or because, you know, that's just what would have happened anyway. And again, my son's reading and writing has noticeably improved, but it does sometimes just noticeably improve, you know. Even when he was using the tablet regularly, his reading and writing would sometimes just go up to the next level. It's impossible to know whether that is because they're not watching crap all the time. Anyway, and I haven't completely banned them from, you know, watching cartoons. You know, if my son actually comes and says to me, "Mum, can I watch X on your phone?" I'll say, "Yeah, okay, here you go. Have half an hour while I make dinner." You know, and he specifically asks for things that he knows I'll say yes to when he does that. And he says, "Oh, can I watch Horrible Histories? Can I watch Half Asleep Chris?" He loves Half Asleep Chris, and I like Half Asleep Chris. Peaky Dippers. We like watching Peaky Dippers together. And yeah, sometimes we will sit and watch it together. Sometimes I let him have half an hour by himself while I'm busy, and you know, that's fine. He'll watch a couple of episodes and then he'll give it back to me, and that's exactly what I want. You know, that's fine. My daughter, she watches DVDs sometimes. You know, she's got a few DVDs of things like, you know, Peppa Pig and Bob the Builder and things that she enjoys. And again, she'll watch a bit of that, and then she'll get bored and we'll turn it off. Fine. And as I say, she does enjoy having stories read to her as well. Yeah, my Facebook hiatus, I think there are pluses and minuses. There have been things that I missed. But overall, it's not been difficult. I think it's one of those things like, you know, vegetarians don't miss eating meat because, you know, it's, you know, that they actually dislike the idea of eating meat. You know, I had a specific goal in mind and it wasn't difficult to achieve it. You know, all I had to do was not use Facebook. And I'd say that the thing that I missed about Facebook was the thing that I actually signed up for in the first place, which was keeping in touch with friends and family that I don't regularly speak to otherwise. I mean, I joined Facebook in 2008, so I've been a long time user. And I joined purely because I used to be on MySpace and LiveJournal and things, and I found everybody who used to use those had kind of abandoned it, and they were becoming less and less active because they were all using Facebook. So I joined to stay in touch with those people. And then, of course, you know, you get involved in groups and things, and, you know, all your family sign you up and everything, and it becomes, you know, a part of your life. You know, it becomes how you communicate with people. You know, if I want to arrange a play date for my children with one of my friends, I'll get in touch over Facebook and say, "Are you free on such and such a day?" You know, if I want to say happy birthday to my auntie, I will send her a Facebook message. You know, it's just a sort of go-to way of communicating with people. And it's very easy to do things like, I know that my family and a few close friends are interested in, you know, how my kids are doing. So I will post pictures of, you know, my kids having a day out, and anyone who's interested can have a look at it. Oh yes, how lovely. Anyone who isn't can scroll past. You know, I sort of follow a lot of political, satirical pages, and I share posts from them because I know I've got another handful of friends who are interested in those things. And if they like it, great. If they don't, scroll by. Just go like that, and you don't have to see it ever again. But the thing that bothers me about Facebook, the thing that I didn't miss, is when you get involved in groups and they go downhill so quickly. Again, it's a double-edged sword because, you know, all the trolls and, you know, the people who are just there for a fight, they're annoying. They're annoying. You're just trying to enjoy the content that you signed up for, and there's all these people, you know, just being transphobic for no reason, you know, finding some excuse to have a go at Muslims or whatever. And, you know, yeah, that's annoying. It gets you wound up. You sort of want to reply and tell them, you know, that, you know, you're an idiot, this is why. But it's in a way, it's like contact with the outside world. You can so easily get yourself in a little echo chamber where everyone agrees with you and you only see things you're interested in. And, you know, having that annoyance of people you dislike, it sort of keeps you on your toes. It keeps you in touch with, you know, what the other half is thinking. You know, it reminds you that they are real people. And, you know, they really are out there, they're active, they are doing all the same things you are. They're just ordinary people going about their day arguing with strangers on Facebook. Yeah, the transphobe thing's really weird. You know, they used to be just, you know, another class of haters, you know, you just lump them in with the racists and the homophobes and things and ignore them. But all of a sudden, they're everywhere. Even just sort of funny meme groups and things, they get infiltrated by, you know, this weird cult of people who have, you know, just some obsession with transgender. It's where did that come from? Can we just blame J.K. Rowling entirely for this? Or well, why has that suddenly become the trendy thing to be? I mean, it's not like there are loads of, you know, famous trans people in the public eye or anything, is there? I'm not aware of any. Why did that become such a big deal? And the anti-vaxxers as well. Anti-vaxxers sometimes just sort of turn up and, you know, you'll post a completely innocuous message on, you know, comment on a thing, and then, oh, you sound vaccinated. Is it just a troll thing? You know, is it just something that, you know, all the annoying people who just want to fight, that have realised that riles people? Where's it gone? Alpha males. Now, I do actually know, well, vicariously know, a couple of people who, you know, maybe they're teachers or youth club leaders and, you know, deal with teenagers regularly, and, you know, they say that, you know, the whole incel movement is really big at the moment. You know, it's a massive problem. It's not something that I'm really aware of. I do actually know two young lads who were vaguely involved with it for a while, but then sort of realised they were all a load of idiots and moved away. But yeah, apparently it is a really big deal amongst, you know, young lads. How did that come about? I mean, I know Andrew Tate in particular has been in the news a lot, but, you know, mostly, you know, talking about him being, you know, accused of being a sex offender and so on. I mean, why has he become a big hero to teenage boys? And you see all these long rants about how Andrew Tate is innocent. He is innocent until proven guilty. And you know, even when he is proven guilty, they'll just change to, yeah, well, those girls deserved it. Those girls shouldn't have been slags. It's... Oh, he was wrongly convicted. There is no evidence against him. It's their word against his. He's been made a scapegoat. Yes. And you just think, how do so many people get into this? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things that have a big following that can't possibly be true. But how has it just exploded suddenly? I mean, the thing that, we as grown-ups can do is just absolutely ridicule them. I mean, all of these youth subcultures, the kids trying to look hard, they end when they become, figures of fun. Like everyone was really scared of chavs at one bit, when I was a teenager, 20 years ago or so. Chavs were, the end of society. But then you get sort of comedy characters like, Vicky Pollard and Lee Nelson and so on, just parodying them. And suddenly, very suddenly, it became, really naff. Chavism. Nobody wanted to look like that anymore. No one wanted to sound like that anymore. No one wanted to be that kind of person because they were just being completely ridiculed all the time. I think the more you sort of fear them, make them out to be a threat, I think that's what they want. It is just another little teenage subculture. The only difference being that it's about hating women, not about wearing certain clothes and listening to certain music. No, it's not about hating women, it's about hating girls. It's about hating girls. Once you pass your mid-20s, you're invisible to them, you're safe. Which sort of makes it quite a lot more worrying that there are some grown men involved. But as I say, the worst thing we can do is really take it seriously. Obviously, if they are committing crimes, yes, deal with that, as you would anybody else. But, the idea of being an alpha male, of being an incel, of being part of the manosphere, I think the way to deal with them is just to make it ridiculous. Make it just the most stupid thing it can possibly be. Just do a laugh react to anything they say. I had one once. He wrote this sort of long diatribe about everything you see has been built by men. Your house was built by men. Your car was built by men. And I said, well, I'm actually looking out of my window now and I can see my garden, which I designed, planted, paid for, landscaped entirely by myself, apart from a couple of things that were gifts from my mum, who taught me everything I know about gardening. So, you can take that back to your, whichever influencer put that idea into your head and demand an apology for making you look stupid in front of the girls. At which point he suddenly realised he had something much more important to be getting on with and never wrote back to me. But anyway. I mean, that whole everything was built by men line. You know, it's, even if we assume that there are no female builders or engineers or management or anything like that, you know, those, if we assume that gender roles are universally applicable and exist for a good reason, you know, those men would have had a very hard time building anything if nobody was doing their washing, doing their cooking, looking after their children, taking care of them when they're ill, doing their admin work. Wouldn't they? Wouldn't they? I just went off on alpha males, didn't I? And the whole thing is just so stupid. I just think, and I've read an article about it recently, and there were people saying, "Oh, is it because these boys don't have positive male role models? Is it because they play violent computer games?" No, it's just misogyny. It's the same misogyny that has been happening since time immemorial, you know, for thousands of years. But because it's not been in any way trendy to be a feminist for a couple of decades, we've now got a generation of boys who, you know, just think they're the funniest thing in the world. The best time they can possibly have is being mean to girls. And it'll come full circle, you know, by the time my kids are dating, the new man will be back in. But for the moment, we've got these little idiots to deal with. And I joined a group on Facebook, actually. I've joined a couple of groups. You get things suggested to you, don't you, when you join one group, the algorithm starts suggesting similar things to you. People sharing things that... I'm not going to go off on that one. I'm not going to go off on that. Things they've had on, you know, dating sites. It's obviously it's a snapshot of a world that, you know, I otherwise wouldn't know about. Is what I'm coming round to. You know, I'm getting these, you know, just these little snippets of insights into other people's psyches. You know, what's going on in the world? What is going on in other people's cultures? You know, what are the young people doing at the moment? And yeah, that's something that, yeah, it's annoying. Sometimes it's shocking. Sometimes it's infuriating. Sometimes it's quite funny. Sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes it's just educational. And it's something that I get only really through Facebook. So what have I learned from this? I think the thing that has been really hit home to me was sort of, you know, really reinforce something that I've been thinking for a while, but is brought it, you know, to the forefront of my mind, is that the reason I use Facebook, I'm not a big social media user, you know, I don't use things like Instagram and Twitter and Blue Sky and so on. I use Facebook because I just find that there's, you know, that it does everything. You know, everybody knows on there. And it, you know, you can post videos, you can post writing, you can share jokes and things. You can do anything you want on Facebook that, you know, other social media sites are quite limited. The thing that, you know, has become very clear to me, that I've been thinking for a while, it's not a revelation, it's something that I've said that about 5 times now, haven't I? Is that I use Facebook because it's very difficult to do anything else while I'm supervising my children. Before I had kids, I used to do things like watching films, reading books, making things, doing crafty stuff and DIY and so on. I used to listen to Radio 4. I used to really enjoy cooking. I used to sort of spend hours just cooking a dinner, following a recipe or making something. And those are things that you can't really do when you are trying to concentrate on watching your children, because you always need to keep one eye out, especially my 3-year-old. Every 10-20 minutes she needs something. She wants a drink, she wants to take into the toilet, she's fell over and hurt herself. She needs me to open something for her or read a book to her or do have some sort of interaction. I can't just get into things. I don't know if this is the autistic mind or if neurotypicals have this problem as well, but if, say, I am reading a book and my daughter needs something, it's an annoyance. I'm trying to concentrate. I'll lose my place. I'll forget what I've just read. Even if she's just showing me something, showing me one of her toys or something, looking away, the distraction, it's not something I want. So I don't read books. Even my older son, he goes out and plays with his friends, but he still needs to keep coming in. Mum, can I have a drink? Mum, where's my Pokemon cards? Mum, can I have my bike out the shed? Oh, Mum, so-and-so's been mean to me, I'm going to stay inside now. And, I can't watch a film or play a computer game or anything like that under these conditions. It's just not possible for me to get involved in anything else. I don't want to complain. I don't want to sound like I am complaining, because I knew when I opted into having children that I was signing up for, a good 10 years or so of having this as my full-time job. Right, I knew that. I can deal with that. I do have an hour or so in the evenings when they're both in bed, when I can do whatever I want. Right, I'm not complaining about just being a mum. Right, I'm explaining that this is why I use Facebook a lot, because, when they're playing by themselves, if there's noise going on, it doesn't matter. I can just look at Facebook, go, oh yeah, oh yeah, that's funny. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, what's so-and-so done today? Oh, and I can do all that, and it doesn't take up that much concentration. It's little couple of second bursts of looking at something, taking it in, responding, moving on. And, if my children if they're making noise, it doesn't matter. It doesn't take up a lot of brain power. It doesn't, I don't sort of get into the zone with it like I would if I was, listening to a play on the radio or something. I can always scroll back if I miss something, but nothing's really vital on Facebook, is it? You can just scroll past and your life remains the same. And that's probably why there are so many mum groups on Facebook as well, because, there are a lot of us who are in the same boat. As I say, I don't know whether, neurotypicals have the same problem that I do. I don't know if people whose kids go to school or to nursery a lot of the time have problems to the same extent. Well, I say problem. I solve the problem by using Facebook. One thing that I had noticed I was doing, which was another reason I wanted to stop using it for a while, was, sometimes my children would be trying to talk to me, interact with me, engage with me, start a conversation with me, ask me questions and so on. And I'd be saying, oh, no, I'm just reading something at the moment. And it was just an article, it was just someone's comment. It wasn't anything life or death. And I'd be, not refusing to engage with my children because I was reading things online. I feel like, again, there's two sides to it. On one, I feel like I shouldn't be refusing to answer my children's questions. But at the same time, they also sort of need to learn that I'm not constantly available. Sometimes you do need to say, no, I'm busy. It's just, teaching them manners, really, isn't it? I'm doing something right now. I will talk to you when I've finished. Just wait a moment. I'll do that in a second. But yeah, I had sort of noticed a few times that I'd done that and then felt guilty about it. And I've also found not using Facebook has maybe made me a bit better informed as well, because instead of seeing memes about things and seeing people talking about things that are in the news, I actually read the news. That's become my kind of go-to time filler. I'm just sitting in the staff room at work, I read the news. And my kids are just sort of happily playing by themselves, I read the news. When I get up in the morning, look at the news. And I'm actually, reading articles about things instead of just reading snippets of, what people think of things. So, I am keeping in touch with goings on around the world a little bit more accurately, maybe. Again, news websites, they're often biased. They're often misleading. Often not well written, not well researched. I think part of becoming a denizen of the internet is that you don't necessarily automatically believe everything you read until you've sort of seen it on another source. And you learn to recognise what's clickbait. Well, you should do. Not everybody does, do they? What's AI generated and what's real? My mum still sends me these sort of little AI generated films of things that, if she thinks I'll be interested in. Mum, that's AI. Again, it's not a new problem, is it? I mean, before there was AI, people were getting taken in by Photoshop, and before that they were getting taken in by airbrushing, and before that there were portraits of royalty that were made them look beautiful instead of what they actually look like, and so on. There's fake news is nothing new. We have to remember that when talking about the epidemic of fake news. There've always been biased sources. There's always been propaganda. There's always been people who aren't necessarily deliberately being misleading, but just aren't very good at writing the news. Newsreaders who are in the wrong job and so on. I have gone back on Facebook. I went back on Facebook today. I mean, my kids had some friends around, so I was sort of busy dealing with that for most of about 4 o'clock today. They all went home, and I actually got a minute to sort of sit down and actually have a look at what was going on Facebook. And I found that not a lot had gone on without me. I had a lot of notifications, obviously, but I started scrolling through them and these were all weeks ago. And it becomes irrelevant. Because I am not there interacting with any of my groups, with any of my, anyone on my friends list. They haven't interacted with me. But then the moment I put up some photos of my kids' parties and everything, I start getting the likes. Will things carry on as before? Well, I haven't given my children their tablets back. If they ask for them, I will. But they haven't asked for them. I think when they're older, when they're kind of old enough to be wanting to Google things themselves and use social media themselves and so on, I'll give them back then. But until then, I don't really see the point. They've been absolutely fine without them. In fact, life's been better. As I say, everything's just been going swimmingly. They don't need them at all. Just as I said when my husband bought them, they do not need their own tablets. I will be using Facebook again. As I say, there are a lot of people on there who I just don't stay in touch with otherwise. There's people on my Facebook friends list who are, I know from long defunct forums and who I used to work with years ago and things, who I don't want to just completely abandon. But at the same time, I would never ring them up or send them an email to tell them about my news. Stay in touch with Facebook. You see what they did for their birthday. You see that they've done some DIY. You see when they've moved house or got married or had a baby or anything like that. And you sort of keep in touch with these people through, the little snippets that they share publicly. Well, maybe not publicly, with their friends list. And I can't deal with the idea of just abandoning all of them without any reason. I mean, there is somebody on my friends list who springs to mind. I've known her 25 years. We met on the first forum I ever joined. I joined on the 12th of January 2000. She turned up a few months later. I've known her 25 years. We've met offline a couple of times, but as I say, I probably wouldn't send her an email to say, what my family have been up to and things. I think if I started doing that, it'd sort of seem a little bit weird. I say we used to talk on a forum, then she added me on MySpace. And then, MySpace sort of died a death, and so we went to Facebook, and that's just how our friendship has existed. And there's other people who've known 15, 20 years on the same basis, have just always stayed in touch through chatting online. And, it'd be like completely abandoning them if I didn't do that. They're not people who I email, they're not people who I visit, they're not people who I sort of talk to on the phone, because we talk online via social media. And, you know, for most of my life, that is how I have conducted most of my friendships. And I think it's something that neurotypical people do as well. You know, they stay in touch with, you know, their distant relatives and stuff by social media because, you know, they always have done. I mean, I don't really know if neurotypical people really form online friendships quite as much as autistic people do. It's certainly a very big thing for us. And it's one of those things that, you know, until quite recently, having online friends was seen as being kind of really nerdy. But I don't know if they do it nowadays. I'm going to leave it there. Whenever I do anything like this, I would, I forgot to say this, forgot to say that. I'll probably be spending all night thinking, I didn't mention that. I should have whatever. Anyway, there we go. I'm going to leave it there for now. I'll see you in the next one.